At an Arctic base, a scientific expedition is underway. A group of researchers discovers the body of a prehistoric man encased in a block of ice. He has been frozen for 40,000 years. The unique find is immediately transported by helicopter to a laboratory for further study. At the same time, we meet the renowned anthropologist Stanley Shepard. He is told that a prehistoric man has been brought to the lab. The researchers want to thaw the ancient body and examine every cell in detail. Using a powerful laser, they remove large chunks of ice. At last, they can better observe their extraordinary discovery. Shepard concludes that the man was between 20 and 30 years old when he was frozen, and that he was a hunter. Could this really be a genuine Neanderthal? The scientists prepare for the thawing process. They plan to send samples of the prehistoric man's body to various universities across the country. Shepard tries to stop them, but they are determined to do anything in the name of science. Little by little, the ice turns into water as the room's temperature continues to rise. The scientists pick up scalpels, needles, and scissors and begin their work. First, they need to remove the furs the prehistoric man was wearing. Apparently, he carried several amulets or perhaps even war trophies. Now they are ready for an autopsy. But what's this? The ancient man's body temperature is rising rapidly. He is given a blood transfusion, and his entire body is examined for signs of life. At first it seems pointless, but suddenly the cells in his body begin to synthesize DNA. It appears that there was a chemical substance in his system that prevented the cells from freezing and dying. The scientists detect new brain activity and immediately attempt to revive the prehistoric man. They administer a strong dose of adrenaline and deliver several defibrillator shocks. It works. The ancient man's heart starts beating again. Somehow he managed to survive within the Arctic ice. The researchers study their ancestor with great fascination. He looks like an ordinary young and strong man, but the scientists claim his brain is not as developed as that of modern humans. The prehistoric man regains consciousness and starts whispering softly. A sedative is administered, but it has no effect. The Iceman is frightened by the strange people in surgical masks. Then Shepard removes his own mask so the ancient man can see his face. Both have curly hair and long beards. Upon seeing someone who resembles him, the prehistoric man calms down and falls asleep peacefully. The researchers are unsure whether he will survive. His blood sugar level is critically low, his pulse is elevated, and his heart is beating too fast. Still, he could prove useful for genetic engineering. For example, people with cancer could be frozen and revived once a cure for the disease had been found. Shepard dislikes this idea. One cannot treat the Iceman like a piece of meat. He is alive and has feelings too. Shepard suggests placing him in an artificial environment that replicates living conditions from 40,000 years ago. The scientists agree to this experiment. The ancient man awakens in a cave. He puts his furs back on. A snake slithers nearby. Birds sing. Bushes and trees surround him. At first, the Iceman is overjoyed. He lights a fire and prepares his meal. After eating, he falls asleep by the fire. The next day, the Iceman bathes in a small waterfall. He picks up an improvised spear and sets out to hunt. He finds a wild boar and lures it into his trap. Now he has another tasty meal. Another day arrives. The Iceman tries to fish in a small lake, but instead of catching a fish, he pulls up a tube resembling a shower hose and examines it with curiosity. This tube connects to a larger pipe that supplies water. It also leads to a fence and a locked gate. The Iceman leaves his enclosure and sees the bars, as well as the modern people. He then realizes he is not at home, but in a strange and unfamiliar place. He roars fiercely and is ready to fight. Because of this, one of the scientists is forced to use a tranquilizer gun. The researchers take the Iceman to an isolation unit. They decide it is better to study this specimen while sedated rather than awake. Shepard is deeply upset. To him, the Iceman is a living being, not merely an object of research. Moreover, he could help in studying the adaptability of the human body, since Neanderthals could walk barefoot on fire and easily endure severe physical pain. Shepard meets the Iceman for the first time. At first, the man is very aggressive. He growls with anger and makes it clear he is unhappy with the visit. Shepard approaches bravely, but the Iceman immediately throws him to the ground and grabs a heavy stone. He slams it near Shepard's head and peers into his mouth. Then he examines his hands and feet and finally tries to say his name. It sounds something like Cher. Shepard decides to call the Iceman Charlie. The anthropologist teaches his new friend his first words. Charlie wants to say many things, but Shepard does not understand his primitive language. At night, the scientists relax by playing video games after a day's work. Shepard requests that a linguist be brought to the base. His request is granted. Soon, an experienced linguist joins them. Shepard goes back to Charlie and teaches him new words. They grow closer and even behave like true friends. However, Shepard notices that the Iceman feels very lonely there. At one point, Shepard begins to sing the famous song Heart of Gold. This inspires Charlie to sing one of his own songs as well. The Iceman is taken to the operating table for yet another examination. The researchers need to understand how Charlie survived being frozen for 40,000 years. They believe they may be able to synthesize some form of cryofusion from his body. Shepard is furious, as they are once again harming Charlie. He does not deserve this treatment. Moreover, his heart may not withstand so many constant temperature changes. Charlie is returned to his enclosure. He is very upset, and even lashes out at Shepard. After all, who would want to live like this? Shepard seeks out his colleague, Dr. Diane Brady. He pleads with her to stop the cruel experiments on the Iceman. To convince her, he begs her to come with him to meet Charlie. Then she will see that he is a living man. Charlie draws a large bird on the ground. He has similar markings on his chest. At that moment, Diane and Shepard go down into the enclosure. The anthropologist introduces the woman to the Iceman. The most important thing is to avoid sudden movements. Charlie examines the woman curiously, and even offers her the insect he was eating. He sniffs Diane and tries to caress her. Shepard explains to Charlie that she is his woman and cannot be touched. Charlie then tries to trade Diane for some of his own belongings. Once again, Shepard explains that she is his woman. Charlie becomes sad. He tries to tell them something. He picks up a piece of chalk and makes marks on the ground, showing that he too had a wife and children 40,000 years ago. Sadly, this was before he was frozen. Charlie truly misses his family. At that moment, a helicopter flies overhead. Charlie watches it as if it were magic. He shouts angrily, then climbs to the roof of his enclosure, raising his hands and revering the helicopter as if it were a god. Charlie demands that the scientists remove the craft immediately. The helicopter flies away from the compound, but from that moment on, Charlie thinks only of this incredible entity. Shepard goes to the local natives for advice, as their behavior resembles Charlie's in many ways. He tells them that the Iceman keeps repeating the word Bira. Turns out that this is the name of a mythical bird that, according to legend, the gods sent to Earth. Shepard realizes that Charlie is not just a prehistoric man. Clearly, he had a connection with the spiritual realm, and this bird had become a symbol of atonement for sins. The Ice Age had taken many lives, and it seems that Charlie decided to sacrifice himself to the gods in order to save his tribe. Now he is in a state of spiritual yearning. No one knows how to help him, but Charlie finds his own solution. He escapes the enclosure with a staff in his hands and enters one of the observation posts. There, Charlie sees many unfamiliar modern devices and assumes they are enemies. Even his own reflection frightens him. The Iceman keeps running and comes across cages with laboratory animals. He is very interested in the birds while the bear terrifies him. He also bumps into a glass door and is horrified when he sees a printer working. Charlie enters a small lab and accidentally smashes a flask of acid. He spots Maynard, one of the base technicians, who tries to hide. Hearing a suspicious noise, Charlie enters the lab and is struck by a handmade spear. Charlie keeps running. The alarm goes off. The Iceman panics even more and hides in one of the tunnels. Finally, he manages to reach the outside world and sees snow for the first time. Charlie is overjoyed. A helicopter appears in the sky and once again he falls into a trance. As the helicopter begins to land, the wind from the rotors knocks Charlie down. The scientists arrive and take the Iceman back to the lab. Maynard is injured, which means Shepard's experiment must be terminated immediately. The ancient man is too dangerous and can never adapt to modern society. Shepard is desperate. It is impossible to keep Charlie in a cage forever. So the anthropologist devises a clever plan. He goes to Charlie's enclosure and asks him to follow. Together, they leave the base and head toward the glaciers. Now, the hero is once again surrounded by nature, and he loves it. The sirens sound at the base. They are pursued. A helicopter is dispatched. Charlie runs ahead of Shepard. Because of the collapse of another glacier, a huge gap opens between them. The helicopter appears in front of Shepard. Charlie cries out Bira in ecstasy and raises his hands. The helicopter descends, and the Iceman grabs onto the landing gear. He hangs there as the aircraft suddenly begins to rise. Charlie is ecstatic, believing the messenger is taking him to his god. High above, he lets go of the landing gear and seems to soar through the sky. Shepard is horrified. At the same time, he realizes that Charlie has finally fulfilled the purpose he set for himself 40,000 years ago. This is the end. If you liked this summary, consider subscribing. And if you got this far, comment anything and like. Until next time, bye.